reforms each catastrophe brought about. I have drawn heavily from accounts in the 1904 book, and have done original research in contemporary newspapers and magazines published in Chicago, New York, London, and other cities, and in accounts published later. My research began in 1961 in Chicago, when I interviewed former Fire Commissioner William Corrigan, who had fought the fire, and who gave me a detailed description of everything, from piles of snow in the street that day to the rescue attempts inside the burning theater. A few months later, while on assignment for CBS News, I had an opportunity to make repeated visits to the Chicago Historical Society to examine its materials on the disaster, including its extensive collection of photographs. More importantly, while I was in the city, I was able to record a lengthy interview with Charles Collins, who had covered the story as a young newspaper reporter. In response to public solicitations here and in England, I received letters from many people, including an AP reporter who was there, as well as a former Northwestern University student who had helped in the rescues. Though I had accumulated much research material, a career path that led to the Middle East, then to New York City, and eventually to Los Angeles and Santa Fe, prevented me from completing the story until now, 3 decades later. All the accounts in this book are based on original newspaper and magazine reports, on interviews and correspondence from the 1960s, and on conversations over the past 3 years with social historians, theater specialists, librarians, lawyers, doctors, forensic experts, fire department historians, and distant relatives of victims who had knowledge of the disaster. There are no fictionalized characters or quotations in these pages. Despite having spent most of his adult life as a writer, Charles Collins died without apparently leaving any memoir, diary, or journal describing highlights of his career. I interviewed him at length in 1962, and after he died 2 years later, I filled in some information on his early years from various sources. Contemporary newspaper accounts of the tragedy were, in some cases, contradictory or even mistaken, and owing to the poor quality of microfilm reproduction, often almost impossible to read, even with a magnifying glass. Perhaps the most difficult fact to pin down was the actual number of victims. The official list, as tabulated by the coroner's office, for instance, is missing the names of some victims mentioned in the Chicago papers. This is probably because of great initial confusion at the scene, and too because some victims were removed by families who failed to notify authorities. News photography of the time was still in its infancy, dependent on bulky cameras, glass plate negatives, magnesium flash powder, which could sometimes injure cameramen, and the need for the subject usually to stand absolutely still to avoid blurring of the image. This would explain why most of the photographs of the theater's interior after the fire have more definition and detail than those shot in the street at the time of the fire, and would explain also why some Chicago newspapers quickly dispatched courtroom sketch artists to capture visuals that photographers were unable to record. A search around the country via the internet and through personal phone calls turned up little in the way of publicity shots of the Mr. Bluebeard production as it appeared on stage, either in New York or Chicago. That seems to me to be remarkable, given the fact that extensive production shots were taken of other shows that same year. The photo of the Pale Moonlight double octet is reprinted here, along with others, like the Pony Ballet Chorus, from sheet music published at the time. My thanks to Scott Stephen of Santa Fe for his deft digital engineering to restore many of the visuals to their original state, or even to enhance them. If there are errors or omissions in this account, I alone am responsible for them. Anthony P. Hatch, Santa Fe, New Mexico, December 2002. 1. Opening Night. A glorious place of amusement. Amy Leslie.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.